the California Arts Council and Beverly Hills Arts Commission is the former West Coast editor of Andy Warhol's Interview magazine and society editor of the Herald Examiner. Her cover stories can be read in Venice and Detour magazines, and she is a contributing editor to California Apparel News. For the next half hour, Joan will bring you inside news and views on society, art, film, and the exhilarating worlds of these multifaceted people. Here is Joan Quinn.
Hi, I'm Joan Quinn, and welcome to Joan Quinn, etc. Wait till you see what we have on the show today. Everyone loves nostalgia, and we love it too. So we have the Plaids. The Plaids are here with us today. There's nothing more nostalgic than the play Forever Plaid. It's a musical about a tight harmony singing group, and it opened in New York close to 3 years ago. It's toured the country. It was at Ford's Theater in Washington, D.C., San Diego's Old Globe, the Park, what do you call that place in?
Park Meridian Hotel?
Yes, it was there in Boston. It was at Park Plaza in Boston. It was at the Coconut Grove Theater in Florida. And it's been playing at the Cannon. What are we going to do with all of them? Oh dear, I didn't know what I was going to do. The story is about 4 singers, and they were so lucky to perform at the White House and at Kennebunkport. And I want to know who had dinner with President and Mrs. Bush.
Oh, well,
I
guess we should start. Yeah, we should start by saying that we're the original cast that started this show, really, from its humble beginnings on the Upper West Side of Manhattan. And then we ended up, when they wanted to put a production at the Ford's Theater in Washington, we were still performing the show in New York and couldn't leave yet. So they put a cast together for the Ford's Theater in Washington. But George Bush's brother had seen the show how many times?
8 or 9.
Yeah, 8 or 9 times in New York. Continued to bring back family members, his great aunt and his business partners, and he kept calling George and saying, "You've got to see this show." So George finally got up and went to see the show in Washington. So.
And that's how it happened?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But you weren't there.
No, we were still in New York at the time. We were still in New York.
That's the story.
Yeah.
Let me introduce the Plaids. We only have 3 Plaids. We have Stan Chandler, Guy Stroman, and Larry Rabin.
Right.
Oh, and I got it right.
Good.
And David Engel, the 4th Plaid, flew to New York. He's the only California boy in the group.
Right.
And he's in New York.
He spends his days off in New York.
Can
right?
you imagine?
Yeah.
This is silly.
He had to go work. Yeah.
But we have the musical director and pianist, Stephen Freeman.
Correct.
Yeah.
And Stephen, you're going to tell us what the play is about.
Okay. In a nutshell, it's, as you said, it's a 4-guy group, tight harmony group, very much reminiscent of the 4 lads, the 4 freshmen. And in 1964, they are killed in a crash on their way to their real big major gig. And due to divine providence and, as we say, the existing holes in the ozone layer, they are allowed back to do their show that they never got to do in life. And this is the performance that we
This is the performance of a lifetime.
Performance of a lifetime.
Literally.
Their
Right.
one wish.
And you, being the pianist, are on stage every minute.
Yes, except for a short 8-minute break.
Union break. Yeah, he gets his union
And
break.
then what? And do you direct them when they start singing, or?
Basically, I support them on stage. I kind of listen to their stuff as they're singing. If there are problems, then we talk about it. I mean, they're all...
But do you give them cues?
No, basically they give me cues. You know, I follow them.
Right.
That's what I do.
So, the Plaids, the 3 of you.
Yeah.
Stan.
Yes.
Stan, tell us about your life. Tell us how you got started in show business, and bring us to this point in time right now, even at your young age.
Well, it was my getting into theater and singing was a process of the path of least resistance. That was the easiest thing for me to do. English was basically the only other thing that I had any kind of skill at. But science, math, nothing like that interested me. Going into business did not interest me. So when I graduated from high school, I went to the Conservatory of Music in Cincinnati, to their professional training program. I did a 4-year stint there, got my degree, immediately moved to New York, and spent about 3 years below the poverty level, grunting it out, working as a carpenter, doing new works of musical theater, trying to get myself established there. And then the first major break was doing cabaret with Joel Grey.
Oh, that was when Joel
Right.
came back to
Right.
do it again on Broadway after 25 years or something, wasn't it?
Something
like
like
a
that,
really,
right.
I saw that too. I was there for that.
So we toured with that, and then we did that on Broadway for a good deal of time, and went back out on the road with it. And that was my foot in the door in the New York theater
What
scene.
role did you play in that?
I sang the tenor that sings "Tomorrow Belongs to Me."
Oh, oh, you're perfect for it too, aren't you?
Frightening song.
Yeah.
Beautiful, beautiful blue eyes and very blonde. Oh, it's perfect.
It was pretty much typecasting there.
Guy. Guy.
And
Guy.
you're who now?
Right, I keep forgetting. Remind me.
No, I have a degree in English and German that I got when I grew up in Fort Worth, and even taught school for a while. But
You
I
have
would
any
do
Southern accent?
well. It's a Texas accent, which we'd like to call a Texas accent rather than a Southern accent. But regardless, any accent you want, as long as the price is right, I'll find it. You know. But I started working at the Dallas Summer Musicals. Six Flags shows first, which were really the vaudeville of our contemporaries, because they were all live shows. You did 6 shows a day or 10 shows a day, and you really learned a craft there. But I would do summer stock at the Dallas Summer Musicals in the summer when I was teaching school, right when I got out of college. And Dallas was producing a great number of shows that toured around. One of them was Peter Pan with Sandy Duncan, which ended up in New York, and that's how I ended up. Which was sort of an
that's how you
unrealistic way.
got?
Yeah, an unrealistic way to get to New York was with a Broadway hit.
Actually working.
Yeah, for about 18 months it ran there.
So
but,
you didn't have to struggle.
well,
and
you know,
be
it's always,
poor
yeah, no, you just, yeah, no, I've never had to do anything else to keep myself in toothpaste and toilet paper, but I've been able to, it's always a struggle. You always want to move your craft to the next level, and that show parlayed itself into doing, playing Rooster Hannigan and Annie on the road and in New York, and then you and I were talking before we went on here about Carol Hall. I did a show with Carol Hall that Geraldine Fitzgerald had directed in New York, and Gretchen Cryer was in it. To Whom It May Concern. Yeah.
To Whom It May Concern.
Fun people. Yeah.
And it was in a church on the west side.
On the Upper West Side, and it was about Carol's ruminations about the religious experience, really. And it was a trunk show for her. She used a lot of tunes that she had never put into shows.
But Carol also wrote Best Little Whorehouse
Right.
in Texas.
Right.
Just to,
Yeah.
so we know she's...
Who we're talking about,
yeah,
right? Yeah,
she really came
lots of good tunes, too. I mean, she wrote so many songs for Barbra Streisand's early albums. Color Me Barbara, I think she wrote, and a lot of songs on that album as well. But she's a good friend and did good work. And then, I don't know, about, as you said, 2.5 years ago, James Raitt, who was our original, the orchestrator and the arranger of this terrific music, called and said that he and Stuart Ross had an idea that they wanted to start over with again. They had tried different versions of Forever Plaid, and did we all want to work on it? They had no script, and we had no place to do it, and we didn't know when we would actually start doing it.
Did they put you all together
Yes.
at that time?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
they knew who you were going to be?
As James said, we don't want to do this again unless we can do it with the people that we want to work with. And it really truly was a labor of not necessarily love, but of mutual commitment, because there was no money involved, and we really didn't know what would occur once we started doing it. And within about 3 weeks, we had a 50-minute version of the play that you're seeing now at the Cannon Theater in Beverly Hills. And we just invited our friends to come see it and say, "Don't hate us in the morning," and they took the roof off the place. So
That's what...
So there was no real casting process involved
No,
with
it
this.
doesn't
This
sound
was
like it.
phone calls. There was no money. There was no producer.
Right.
There was no money. There was nothing. We took turns taking the shirts home and washing and ironing them.
But
we made our props. You
Right.
know, we really did it.
How did you know
Mickey and
you
Judy
could
put on a show.
sing in this harmonic way?
Well, we really didn't. I mean, you know, James really pounded that sound into us, because a lot of those groups grew up singing together, or they were related, you know, like the McGuire sisters.
families,
Yeah,
right.
they had that kind of group singing thing. But we got to meet each other and got to work with each other a long time, and we still try to work on it. And that, you know, it was great to find actors who were willing to commit to something like that, which throws it to Larry, doesn't it?
Larry gets to talk. Yeah. Larry Rabin.
Yes, hi.
Hello, Larry.
I went
Tell
to
us
college.
where you were born. Nobody told us where they were born.
I was actually born in Danville, Illinois, the home of Dick and Jerry Van Dyke.
Oh, good.
And that's about it. There's not much else. It's a little town in Illinois.
It's good catfish there.
And, I grew up all over the Midwest. I ended up going to college in Tucson, Arizona. Arizona, at the University of Arizona. And then halfway through that, decided I really had to get to New York, and went to the American Academy of Dramatic Arts there, which was a great program. And got out and kind of did the poverty thing that Stan did for a while. And then actually I met Stuart Ross, the writer, director, and choreographer of Forever Plaid, doing a show for Theater Works, which is Jay Harnick's company in New York. They develop plays for young audiences. And it was kind of my back door into this whole thing. This is the first really great project that I've worked with.
This one.
Yeah, and it's such a relief to be able to call friends and say, you really do need to come see this.
That's
you know?
great. The thing is, you not only acted in it, but you directed this play at one point.
Well, yes, we all workshopped with it, and I
is that what it was?
Yeah, I assistant directed Stuart on it when we expanded it from the 50-minute production into the hour and 35 minutes that it is now.
Oh, well, we're going to see a clip.
All right.
Okay, yeah. I don't know what it is, but we'll...
Well, I think this is the attempt of these guys to encapsulate all of the Ed Sullivan show in 3 minutes and 11 seconds.
Oh, good, okay.
Good luck to us.
We'll watch forever.
Right here on our very own stage, the entire Ed Sullivan show in the 3 minutes and 11 seconds.
We're back, and tell us, you were telling me something when we were watching it about Macy's Parade.
Right, not this past year, but the year before, we did it as essentially the opening number for the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. So we were out in front of Macy's doing this tribute to the Ed Sullivan Show.
Not down the street.
No, we weren't on a float or anything. No.
Actually, they're on Broadway.
They're right on.
Finally, we're on Broadway.
Right.
The other thing is, this was in a theater. The first time I saw Forever Plaid, it was in cabaret style in a restaurant, I guess on the Upper West Side in New York.
Steve McGraw's is the name of the place.
Steve McGraw's, and we were going to dinner afterwards, but everybody can eat there. So we're sitting there smelling garlic toast, spaghetti, going, what's going on here?
Well,
that's where we first did it. We knew the people that booked that room up there, and that's where we first got to do it. So the show has stayed there. It's still running there.
How does it feel, though? All these people eating and throwing food around.
Well, to us at the time, it was nothing bad. I mean, because that was the normal event. It's a 135-seat theater that is part of that venue, is dining, and so you deal with that.
So you expect it?
But it's a well-respected room. That's where Forbidden Broadway started, and it ran there for almost 4 years. So people are used to going there and used to eating and having fun and drinking and watching the show.
But we came out here, and now we get to raise our elbows, and we don't hit each other.
It was a big transition because we went from this 135-seat dinner theater type space to San Diego's Old Globe, the main stage, which is a 620-seat house that is beautiful. But that transition from a 135-seat, very small cabaret space to a very luxurious space with a 40-foot wide proscenium was very dramatic and a lot of fun.
Well, I saw the difference just at the Cannon Theater, which I happen to love. I think it's a wonderful theater, but they made it look like a jukebox. So it's like you guys are up there with all these bright lights, and the theater's never looked better. These little
it fits in there very well, doesn't it? Yeah.
Oh, it looks so good, and it's like we've put a quarter in and we've gotten our time.
That's your show, right?
We're going to take a break, though, and we'll be right back. We'll be right back. Hi, it's Joan Quinn, and we're back with the Plaids. Stan Chandler, Guy Stroman, and Larry Rabin. We didn't get to ask Stephen Freeman where he came from and about his life, so we're going to give him a chance to talk now.
We've been wondering where he comes from.
Born and raised in a very small little beach town about 20 miles south of Boston, and started playing piano, I guess, when I was around 6. I have an older sister and a middle brother, and my sister started playing when she, I guess, was 8 or something. I don't know. So we grew up with the piano in my house. Finished high school, went to the University of Vermont to pursue a biology major, which was very short-lived, and got involved with a new theater on campus, and carved a nice little niche for myself there for 4 years, and then moved straight to New York, and have been very fortunate ever since.
Do you act, or do you just take the musical side of things?
Basically, most recently I've just been doing a lot of musical work, musical direction work, playing. The majority of my acting was done in college.
Do you write?
I don't write. I don't write.
You just interpret it?
I interpret and I play.
He's
and
a great singer, though.
And I'm a singer.
Terrific
Is he? He's a
singer.
good singer?
He's a terrific singer.
So he's the fill-in, the Plaid fill-in.
Careful.
We had worked together the first time in Girl Crazy with
That's
Lorna
right.
Luft in Detroit a few years ago. As a matter of
It
fact,
was
yeah.
88.
Were you singing?
No, I wasn't singing
He was the
then.
musical director on that as well. Yeah, that's it.
Well, we were talking about Forever Plaid, and the choreography is so precise and the movements are so orchestrated. I wonder if, Stan, is there anything funny that's ever happened during one of the situations that has thrown you off guard?
No, it threw me on guard in a very major way. In the course of one of the numbers in the show, we dealt very directly with an audience member. And in Steve McGraw's in New York, we entered from the back of the house, and I noticed that there was a woman sitting there with a cervical collar around her neck. And just filed it away. We went on the stage, we did half the show, and Guy went out to retrieve someone from the house and picked this woman. In the meanwhile, she had taken off her collar and set it on the table. He had no idea. He brought her to the stage. I said, "Be careful." And he thought it was because this woman had had the extra adult beverage.
Yeah, they can drink there at Steve McGraw's stage.
And so we got her on stage, and we did the number with her, and she participated with us, and they're very careful in pulling her arms out. And
She dances on
right,
stage.
she dances on
with
stage
you,
with
yeah.
us. We got her off the stage, and I was sweating bullets because this woman could have owned a trendy little nightclub on the Upper West Side of Manhattan.
Has any of the your props given way or not worked or something like that?
Plenty of times.
Many times.
That happens frequently.
The great thing about the show is that the show has built-in mistakes. They're carefully choreographed, but it confuses the audience a bit, so when things do go awry, they really don't know. And we had one night during the workshop where the bass player saw a microphone start to tip over, so he reached out to grab it and ended up falling face first on top of his bass in the center of the stage, like a beached whale, just went whomp down, and the audience howled. They thought it was part of the show.
Even
So how can you tell, really?
well, you hope they can't, because these guys weren't pros. I mean, these guys were really trying to make it. That's what they were trying to do.
The
And
night I saw it, I wanted to ask you if you'd made a mistake that night or if something was like planned.
there's a lot of them is planned, and the dialogue itself even sounds ad-libbed up to a certain point, as if it were a surprise that they even found themselves back in this arena to be able to do this show. So a lot of that looks planned, unpolished, and not amateurish, because we really nailed that music. But it does look like these guys weren't the pros that they could have been had they been on the road for the last 28 years. So if things do go awry or somebody does fall off the stage, usually the audience just thinks it's part of it.
You've talked so much about moving around with the play and
Right.
going from city to city. I mean, it's really a gypsy kind of existence.
Well,
How
we
do you
never-
make it feel home?
Well, we never intended to become a tour of Forever Plaid, and in the other cities, they're franchises that have opened. It's not touring, although there is a tour going to be going out this year. We've become the West Coast tour, playing San Diego, Pasadena, San Diego, and now Los Angeles, here in Beverly Hills. But what happens for us is that we rely so much on each other. The
you
venue
do.
really doesn't make that much of a difference because we just do the play.
Do you hang out together?
A lot, yeah. I mean, it's like any other show that you take on the road. You do find yourselves in sort of a limited social circle, but our profession gives you a sense of home often, you know.
Are you friendly? Are you really friendly?
Very much so. Well, it's like
we
brothers.
fight.
It very much is like brothers in that we can fight, and we make up. I mean, it's that happens, but it's a very, very tight relationship, and I think that comes through in what you see on the stage
the
with
way
us.
you move.
Yeah.
Do you take something with you? Do you bring something with you from New York that you've got to have, like, or you can't live here without it?
Well, I had an autographed photo of Martha Graham in my dressing room for a long time,
Never
which
goes
was
anywhere without it.
Is that it?
given to me as a gag gift, and she's just kind of followed me from one place to the next, and it always takes me right back to McGraw's.
So that's it? And do you have anything that you ever...
I guess a series of CDs and tapes that I like to travel with. I mean, that gives you a sense of home, I think, if you turn those on.
Stan?
No, not really. There's nothing. I mean, I spent a lot of time on the road, and this I don't consider living on the road because we're setting up camp for an extended period. You know, I've traveled with a steamer trunk, and I've also traveled with just 2 suitcases where I'm on a plane every Monday. And this, where you are basically setting up shop for an extended period, wherever you go, be that for 6 months or 4 months, is not so much that road existence. But yes, I keep my apartment in New York and all of that, but I don't have any talisman, no fetish, no.
Well, we're going to see another clip from the show.
Right.
Since you're here, established, you don't need any of your little special tricks. Let's see how you sing in this clip. Do you want to set it up,
Yeah,
Guy,
the
or-
Plaids traveled a lot too, but they would travel from bar mitzvah to wedding to
Right.
to anniversary, and this is what we call the catering drill in the show, which shows they're trying to explain to the audience that they're available to serenade their every affair.
Great. Let's see it. Forever Plaid.
How we danced on the night we were wed. Christmas parties. Oh, weedy, weedy town of Bethlehem, how still we see thee lie. Bar mitzvahs. Hava Nagila, Hava Nagila, Hava Nagila, Hava Nagila. Southern Baptist revivals. Rock my soul in the bosom of Abraham. Oh, rock my soul. And for the younger generation, we kept up with the sounds of a new America. The Plaids sing the Beatles. She loves you, yes, sirree. She loves you, yes, sirree. She loves you, yes, sirree. Bob. You think you lost your love, yada yada. Well, I saw her yesterday, yada yada. She's yada yada, and she told me what to say, yada yada. She loves you, wow, and you know that can't be bad. Yes, sirree. She loves you, and you know you should be boom de yada, happy. She loves you, yes, sirree. She loves you, yes, sirree.
I love the way you sing. It really is good. Do people think you're a singing group?
Well, we get that confusion a great deal. I mean, literally, we were 4 actors that they put together, but so often they see the show. I had a gentleman there Sunday night who said, "Now, where are you guys appearing next? Where have you guys been?"
Oh, that's what I thought.
And
Because the Plaids. I mean, we
Right.
even called you the Plaids here.
right.
Who are you?
It's the
Yeah.
cast of Forever Plaid.
The cast of the original cast of Forever Plaid.
That's right.
Yeah.
We should have referred to you as the cast.
Right.
But we know you're actors. Is there anything that you're dying to do? Something that you've always wanted to do on stage, or sing, or go someplace?
Wow. Well, God, on stage, we all really want to try and take this into a different medium, especially being out here. We'd like to do, you know, Forever Plaid, the TV series, or the film, which they've talked about both, or other projects. But I mean, that would really be, if we're talking about the great Plaid experience,
Well, that's good.
that would be our mecca, is really to be able to develop this into a different venue again.
You know, kind of Spalding Gray, Monster in a Box,
Right.
or
Yeah.
Eric Bogosian. Those
Absolutely.
things
Oh.
work very well on film.
Right.
But I think a TV series is really good. What about you, Guy?
Well, to bring this play to the Cannon Theater here has been something that I tried to start to get the producers to think about back last year, about
So
a year
it's-
ago in January. So this has been the last piece in the puzzle for me. All the things that we tried to do, the album that we did totally on speculation, that we had no label whatsoever, and RCA bought it the first time they heard the album of the show. That has been a great vindicating thing. The awards that we won, the LA Drama Critics Circle Awards that we won last week, that we're going to pick up on the 5th of April, that's been real vindicating, because the award was for best ensemble acting, which is what I try to do in New York. You try to find the best ensemble experience that, and it's very infrequent anymore in this country. You don't get that. So the next thing that I'd love to do would be to find a similar ensemble challenge where you can push your craft to the next level.
I have it. What about Plaid 1, 2, 3, the 50s, the 40s, the 30s? You can move back.
Move backwards in time, sort of like
Quantum Plaid.
Yeah, right. We're the Merlin of Plaiddom, right?
Don't you do that?
Right. We
You
live
can
backwards,
do
right?
that. Stan, what do you have that
Well-
you've been dying to do?
A series.
It sounds like everyone who comes on,
Right.
take me, I want to do a
Well, that's
series.
in conjunction with what Larry's saying, is that we are all. Everyone says in the business that when you come to LA, get a show, do a show. Well, what we have now is a terrific showcase for us that's extraordinarily entertaining. It's the easiest hour and a half you'll spend, and we would like to then take us or this piece to the next level. You know,
I see,
ideally
I see.
take the piece and us with it, but there's never a guarantee of that. But hopefully people will come and see and say, these guys really are acting, because I believe them as a group.
Right, exactly.
You
And I
know?
think
I believe
it is,
their relationships.
I think it is believable. And as you say, it's kind of like four brothers, you know, working together, and you know what each one of you is going to do. When I went to the theater, there was a 70s car. Was it a 70s, 60s?
That's actually from the 50s.
50s
Yeah.
car parked out in front. Does that park out there all the time in front of the theater?
Well, the first week or so they had a car or two out there, and I think KCBS did a kind of promotional thing, but the car you're referring to is David Ingles' car that he found in San Diego when this last time we were at the Old Globe, and he just bought it and had some restoration work done on it, so he just drove it out front that
It's
night.
a 1953 Buick Special.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
It was
terrific
great.
car.
Yeah.
Do you, any of you collect things other than David collecting a car or whatever? Do you collect
That car's going to collect him.
It's hard to stay in one place long enough to collect too much. We've all been in the process of weeding out.
Have you?
It's
Yeah.
hard to do the tchotchke thing when you're on the road.
Right.
It seems like it would be easier because you have so many new places to go
find
and buy
things.
things.
Right.
But
Well, this very show started with an idea that Stuart had by looking at his brother's old 45 record collection.
Say it,
That's where that
Sam.
came from, because they literally did the story that David tells in the play. There was a jukebox at his family's diner, and he would get all the 45s from that jukebox when they'd come and exchange the records. And he went to looking through that collection again about 8 years ago, and he said, "There's got to be a play in here somewhere about these guys."
and there
mentioned-
was.
And you mentioned the choreography, and the choreography in this piece is all inspired by the album covers of the era, from the Four
right.
Lads, the High-Lows, the Four Aces, you know, because they would put themselves in the oddest, contorted positions,
Thinking they were
But
looking back.
very,
being very hip, very
Right.
cool.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Those guys really didn't move in their shows. They just kind of stood and sang.
and did their
so,
stylized movements.
right, for the play, so this is more a synthesis of what they idealized on their album covers with what they really did when they sang, and Stuart put them together.
So we're going to use the choreography, and we're going to dance out of the studio right now because our time is up. Stephen, Stan, Guy, and Larry.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thanks for being with
We'll
us.
see you at the
Thank
Cannon
you.
Theater again.
Thank you. Thanks for being with Joan Quinn, etc.